Okay, welcome back. So in my last video we talked about what OCD is, and I was a little bit erratic and had a lot of thoughts processing through my head. I gave a little bit about my story and I jumped all over the place. So I've scripted this one out a little bit more, although I don't want it to be scripted because I really just want to speak from my mind, but my thoughts get erratic. So, I have my papers. So if you see me going like this, I'm just trying to follow along to keep my thought process the way that it should be and not like get all over the place. I messed up a couple of things and I was just all over the place. I really want to stay concise to the videos in the order that I wanted them to be in originally. So we'll just call that one my introductory video. In this video, what I'd like to talk about are a few of the things that I mentioned in my previous video and did not go in depth into them because I felt like I was against time constraints. As it is, it took me a really long time to do that video because I was continually interrupted, although tonight I shouldn't have that problem. And then it took, like, I'm not even kidding, about 5 hours to upload it to YouTube. So that being said, let's get started. My last video I talked a little bit about me and how OCD affected me. I mentioned neurotransmitters, CBT, ERP, triggers, and onset. So these are all things that you're probably sitting there going, okay, she's talking about these things, but there's no definition behind them. So, I'd really like to give a definition behind some of these things, but I want to stay focused. So we're going to take this one step at a time, and the most logical way to do that is to talk about the different forms of variations, subtypes of OCD. So I have it all written down. This came from a wonderful website that I did do the research on. I do want to give credit to. It came from, the website is www.ocd-uk.com. I've also gotten information from NAMI, National Alliance of Mental Illness. You can Google any of these things and pretty much find out any of the information that you're looking for. But I guess my point here is to just give a rundown of different types of OCD and how they can be debilitating, how they affect your life, what they do, and no, I'm not going to go into what causes them because we don't know what causes it. We don't know what triggers it to start, stop, go into extremes. It's just one of those things. So, as we talked about yesterday, some of it can be genetic, some of it can be environmental, some of it can be a combination of both. I have gone over the most media frenzied version of OCD, which is contamination. I say germaphobe, but that's really kind of offensive to someone who has contamination OCD. Excuse me for just one quick second. I'm still here, still talking, just need to get a drink, so one sec. Okay. Contamination could be a personal contamination. That's where the hand washing comes in. Some people feel they need to shower or bathe multiple times a day if they come into contact with germs and other such things. Contamination could also be of the home, so, or the work environment. So they're constantly cleaning. this is not all types of OCD. As we're going to get into, there are many different subtypes of OCD. So checking, making sure things are just right, checking your doors, checking your windows, making sure your oven is turned off, making sure that there's no gas leaks, making sure that there's no well, example for me, I at one time thought my dryer was gonna blow up because I have a gas dryer, and like I was paranoid it was gonna blow up because it's a gas dryer. That was like mild compared to some of the other intrusive thoughts that I've had over the course of the last year, but initially that was one of my concerns. So thinking about it in terms of that, that's checking, just checking to make sure. I would constantly check my dryer to make sure it wasn't going to blow up. I hung my clothes on a line a couple of times because I was a little afraid that that might happen. I wouldn't run my dryer at night, or when I wasn't home, or any other time where I felt like it just would become overwhelming. So then you have hoarding. We've all seen the shows on TV, hoarders. That is a type of OCD. People have things. They have to keep getting things. They collect things. It's just it's obsessive, it's compulsive, it's impulsive. They go to the store, they buy stuff, they come home, and then you see them on the TV channels. I'm not sure which channel it is, if it's TLC or whatever it is, but you see them on those channels, and they have these houses that are just filled with stuff, and the more stuff that they buy, the more anxious they get, and it doesn't really make them feel any better. So yeah, hoarding is definitely a form of OCD. It's hard to deal with because you get to a point where you have all this stuff and you have no place, as I'm sure anyone who's watched that show has seen. So definitely a form of OCD. Ruminating is part of what is known as pure O. And so with ruminating, your intrusive thoughts come into your mind and you focus on them constantly. I'm guilty of ruminating, despite the fact that I try to fight the ruminating. I would sit and focus on it, like, oh my gosh, why won't this go away? The more you think about it, the more you're going to think about it. It's like an example I was given to me, and I won't use the exact same example. I'll use one that my grandmother and I used to joke about. It's called, don't think about bananas. What's the first thing you're going to start thinking about? Bananas. Yeah. So when you are trying not to think about something, you're going to think about it more. And that's the problem with OCD. The more you don't want to think about something, the more you are going to think about something. And so trying to force the intrusive thoughts away, it just brings them on more, and it's unfortunate. Then you have harm OCD, or violent OCD, where you have thoughts of harming your loved ones. That's a really difficult thing to talk about for me, because just the thought of that it's difficult. There's people out there who are terrified they're going to hurt someone against their better judgment, against their will. Like, they're not going to be able to help. Like, they're going to snap, lose control, and they're going to hurt someone. That's basically what it is. I do want to quickly mention that OCD basically takes your worst fears and turns them against you. It uses everything that you are afraid of and turns it against you. So someone who is naturally a compassionate, creative, loving person who suddenly has OCD onset, it turns everything that they are against them and tries to make them the opposite of what they are. They're not psychopaths. They're not sociopaths. They don't want to hurt anyone. They don't want to feel this way. It's a constant struggle. It's a constant battle. So then you have religious OCD, which it makes you worry about sin or God hating you, or you have bad thoughts in religious buildings, or screaming blasphemous words in a religious setting. You might fear that you've lost touch with God or your beliefs. You may have to touch or kiss repeatedly religious objects to prove how you feel towards them. You might fear that you've broken religious laws regarding speech, dress, or modesty. Intrusive thoughts that occur during prayer will contaminate or cancel out the value of the prayer. And so that can be very debilitating to someone who's very faithful in their religion. Running low on time here, so I just want to come back to harm OCD is not just about harming others, it's also self-harm. You may be afraid you're going to hurt yourself, jump out in front of a train, or I don't know, commit suicide. There's a difference between suicide ideation and intrusive thoughts. Intrusive thoughts will tell you, oh hey, just end it all and this will all go away. You don't want to die. I don't want to die. Most people with this don't want to die. They just want the thoughts to go away. They want the thoughts to end. And so the OCD will tell you, well, if you're dead, then you can't think this way anymore. But OCD is a bully. That's the best way I know how to put it, because it is. It bullies you. It makes you think things that you don't want to think. So getting back into another form of OCD would be like orderliness and symmetry. So things have to be in an exact place. Like using myself as an example, my DVD collection, which is fairly large, has to be in alphabetical order. If it's not, I feel like something's wrong. Everything has a place, and everything should be in its place. Things have to face the same way. So when I put food in the cupboard, the nutritional facts have to face towards the back so that I can see the side of the box or the side of the can or the side of the package to know what it is. And when I pull it out, I can turn it around and I see the nutritional facts. I don't know why. It's ridiculous. I can't just stick them in the cupboard and be done with it. I have to be particular about it. Things have to be spotless. I scrub my counters 3 times because, as I suggested in my last video, 3 is my number. So another thing I just want to touch on is compulsions. So avoidance is a compulsion. Avoiding things that make you have intrusive thoughts, which would be considered triggers. Triggers are anything that will lead to an intrusive thought. Anything that will cause an intrusive thought. So if you have contamination OCD, or if you have religious OCD, for contamination, going into a hospital, that's a trigger. For religious OCD, walking past a church, that could be a trigger. So avoidance is really, it's a compulsion. You avoid the things that give you the triggers. You avoid the things that make those intrusive thoughts come through. And you try to do the best you can to keep those intrusive thoughts at bay. And you're going to have breakthrough thoughts, or what I call breakthrough thoughts, because they're going to come through anyway, because when you have OCD, it just doesn't go away, it doesn't end. You can do things to avoid, but you can't completely get rid of it. It's always there. It's always in the back of your mind. Even on good days, it's always in the back of your mind. I've got about 8 seconds left here, so like, comment, subscribe, share. Until next time, thanks.